The stars looked calm when Captain Rayan began his patrol near the outer border of human space. He was on his ship, Horizon, a fast and loyal patrol cruiser that had protected the border for many years. It was supposed to be a normal day, calm and peaceful, because the alien alliance had promised friendship and safety for 50 years. Humans and the alien race called the Solari had lived side by side without war. Everyone believed peace would last forever. At least that is what they hoped. Rayan stood on the bridge watching the silent stars. His crew talked softly, relaxed, because no danger was expected today. Suddenly, the communication officer stiffened. All Earth stations went silent. "Sir," she said with a shaking voice. Rayan turned quickly, confused. "How many stations?" he asked. "All of them, sir." 3 colonies stopped answering at the same time. She replied. Rayan felt something cold move through his chest. This was not a normal blackout. This was something else. He ordered full speed toward the nearest colony, Nova 3. As the ship moved through space, the radar picked up strange energy waves. It looked like debris clouds ahead. Rayan's heart began to pound. When Horizon arrived near Nova 3, everyone on the bridge froze. The colony was burning. Flames rose into space. Broken buildings floated like dead leaves. Human ships were destroyed and drifting without power. It was not an accident. Someone had attacked. Someone had meant to kill. The crew whispered in shock. Who did this? Why no warning? Where is the Alliance? But there was no answer, only silence. Rayan gave the order to scan for survivors. After long minutes, the radar found a single escape pod, small and damaged, drifting slowly. Horizon pulled it inside. Inside the pod was a young engineer from Nova 3, bleeding and barely alive. He looked at Rayan with wide, terrified eyes. "They lied to us," he whispered. "We trusted them," he said. Coughing, "They promised peace. But the Solari came without warning. They destroyed everything." Then he fell unconscious, leaving the bridge in heavy silence. Rayan clenched his fists. The Solari were their strongest allies. They had signed the peace pact. They had shared technology, food, and knowledge. They had even promised to defend each other from danger. But now the truth was clear. Humanity had been betrayed. Rayan sent an emergency message to the Human Fleet Command. His voice was steady, but filled with anger. "This is Captain Rayan of the Horizon. Colony Nova 3 has fallen. Human victims everywhere. Enemy ships unknown. But evidence shows Solari weapons. Humanity has been betrayed. Prepare for war," he said. Before he could send more reports, the radar officer gasped loudly. "Captain, something is coming," she said. Rayan looked at the large holographic screen. Dozens of glowing shapes appeared, moving fast. At first, they looked like Solari ships, but then he noticed something strange. The formation was wrong. The engines were different. These ships looked like copies, but something darker, something changed. The ships spread out, surrounding the human cruiser from all sides. "They are not answering our signals," the communication officer said. Rayan gave the order to raise shields. Every member of the crew felt fear rising inside. They did not know if these enemies were the Solari themselves or something even worse. The enemy ships powered their weapons, bright lights growing like angry stars. Rayan stared at them with cold focus. He knew one truth now. Whatever these ships were, whatever their reason, humanity had only one choice: survive the betrayal or die under it. And as the first enemy blast charged, Captain Rayan whispered one final line. "They wanted war. Then they will see what humans can do." The first attack wave hit the horizon with a bright flash. Shields shook, lights flickered, and several crew members grabbed their stations to stay steady. Captain Rayan stood firm, watching the enemy ships move like predators around a weak animal. But Horizon was not weak, and humans were not easy to kill. "Return fire," Rayan ordered in a calm but sharp voice. Laser beams shot into the darkness, hitting one of the strange alien ships and sending it spinning away. But more enemy ships moved forward. Fearless and cold, Rayan knew they could not stay here. They had to reach the main fleet. Only together could humanity understand this betrayal. He gave a command: "Activate warp jump sequence." "Get us out of here." The engine officer nodded, fingers dancing over the controls. A moment later, the Horizon jumped into faster-than-light travel, leaving the burning colony behind. But the silence inside the ship felt heavier than the darkness outside. Hours later, Rayan arrived at Human Fleet Command near the star and dozens of large ships floated in formation, shining like steel giants waiting for orders. battlecruisers, carriers, destroyers, all preparing to face an unknown enemy. The betrayal had spread fast. More colonies were under attack. More signals were lost. Fear was growing across human space. Rayon entered the command chamber. Admiral Soren, an old but sharp leader, looked at him with heavy eyes. "Captain Ryan, your report shook the entire council," Soren said. "We trusted the Solari. We shared our borders. We believed their peace." Rayon nodded. "I think the betrayal goes deeper than we think." Inside the chamber, other captains argued loudly. "Strike them now." One said, "We need proof before we start a war." Another shouted, "3 colonies are gone. How much more proof do you want?" Someone responded angrily. The room felt like a storm ready to explode. Rayon raised his voice, firm and steady. "We found strange ships, not fully something changed in them," he said, "and we discovered destroyed Solari outposts along the border. Someone else is attacking them too." The chamber fell silent. Everyone turned to him, surprised. "If the Solari attacked us, then who destroyed their stations?" One officer asked. Rayan shook his head slowly. "We have more than one enemy." Fleet Command moved into emergency action. More ships arrived, forming a powerful battle group. Weapons were charged, shields upgraded, and scouts sent ahead to explore alien territory. Humans were preparing not for a defense, but for a hunt. Admiral Soren placed a hand on Rayan's shoulder. "You will lead the Vanguard fleet," he said. "Go deep into Solari space, find the truth, and hit back if needed." Rayon accepted without hesitation. He knew this mission was dangerous, maybe impossible, but humanity needed answers, and someone had to walk into the dark first. The Vanguard fleet, 12 strong human ships, soon formed behind the horizon. They moved like a silent arrow heading into unknown space. The stars grew dimmer, communication signals weaker. Strange radio noise echoed around them, like whispers from empty worlds. Hours into the journey, the radar began to pick up something unusual. "A repeating signal, sir," the communication officer said. Rayan listened to the strange transmission. It was a broken message, but the words were chilling. "Do not trust the light." The crew exchanged nervous looks. Soon after, the fleet discovered the ruins of another Solari outpost. Destroyed ships floated with holes burned through their hulls. This was not human technology. This was something older, something stronger, something cruel. Then the main alarm activated, sharp and loud. "Contact ahead," the radar officer shouted. A massive enemy warship appeared on the screen, larger than any Solari design. It moved slowly, like a beast waking from sleep, weapons glowing with deadly light. Rayon stared at the enormous ship. "We found our answers," he whispered. "And our real enemy." The massive enemy warship drifted in the darkness like a sleeping giant. Its shadow covered the human fleet, making every pilot feel small. Captain Rayan stood on the bridge, staring at the strange vessel. It looked like a Solari ship, but its shape was twisted. Metal plates were bent like bones. Engines pulsed like living organs. It was clear something had changed, the original design into something unnatural. "Hold position," Rayon ordered. The fleet slowed down, forming a defensive wall in front of the huge ship. For several long seconds, nothing happened. The giant ship did not attack, did not move, did not send any signal. It felt like it was watching them, waiting for something. "Sir, we are detecting damage on its hull," the radar officer reported. "It looks abandoned," another crew member added. Rayan narrowed his eyes. "Prepare a boarding team," he said. If humanity wanted answers, they needed to go inside that ship. A small team of soldiers and engineers entered the enemy vessel through a broken airlock. The interior was dark and silent, the metal walls scarred by deep burns. Their flashlights shone on strange symbols carved into the floor, symbols that did not belong to any known race. A cold feeling moved through everyone. One soldier whispered, "This is not a Solari ship anymore." Another added, "Something else changed it." As they moved deeper, they found Bodhi's Solari soldiers lay in the corridors, but their armor was torn open from the inside, their faces frozen in terror. Whatever killed them was not human, and not friendly. The team reached the command center of the ship. There they found a broken console, but one recording was still functional. "Play it," Rayan ordered from Horizon, watching through the team's helmet cameras. The video showed a Solari captain speaking with pale fear in his eyes. His voice shook as he said, "If anyone finds this, turn back. Our alliance with humanity was a mistake, but breaking it was not our choice." He coughed, looking over his shoulder at something in the shadows. A new species came from the edge of our galaxy. They call themselves the They took our leaders. They changed our ships. They forced us to attack humans. Suddenly the captain screamed. A shadow grabbed him from behind, dragging him out of view. The screen turned black. The boarding team froze. Rayon felt his heart tighten. The truth was worse than betrayal. The Solari had been used, controlled, broken. Humanity was not fighting just the Solari. They were fighting the a species strong enough to dominate other empires. The team continued exploring until they reached a strange chamber near the lower decks. Inside, they found tall organic pods growing from the floor, glowing with dark energy. Some pods were broken, slime dripping down the walls. Inside others, half-transformed Solari bodies were trapped, part metal, part flesh. One engineer whispered. They were turning them into weapons. Suddenly, the ship began to shake. Enemy energy spike. The radar officer said from horizon. The ship is activating something. Boarding team, return now, Rayan ordered. The soldiers ran through the dark corridors, the lights flickering behind them. A deep, monstrous sound echoed from the walls. Something inside the ship had woken up. The team made it back to their shuttle just as the giant warship powered up its engines for a suicide explosion. They escaped, racing back to the fleet. Seconds later, the enemy ship burned in a massive fireball, sending shockwaves across space. When the boarding team returned to Horizon, Rayan gathered the fleet captains for an emergency meeting. He played the recording again. Silence filled the room. Everyone understood now. The war was not simple betrayal. It was survival against a new enemy, a controlling enemy, a cruel enemy. Rayan's voice was steady when he finally spoke. The Zyrith turned our allies into slaves. They attacked us to weaken us. They want the galaxy. He looked at each captain in the room. We will not let them win. The fleet prepared for their next move, because now they knew the truth, and the truth demanded war. The human vanguard fleet moved through the dark edges of Solari space with new purpose. Now they knew the truth. They were not fighting old allies anymore. They were fighting a species that controlled minds, twisted bodies, and turned ships into living weapons. Captain Rayan stood on the bridge of the horizon, watching the stars pass by like silver lines. His mind replayed the recording from the dying Solari captain, the fear in his voice, the shadow dragging him away. Rayan felt his resolve harden like steel. If we don't fight now, Earth will be next, he whispered. Minutes later, an alarm rang across the ship, sharp and loud. Multiple contacts ahead, the radar officer announced. The holographic screen lit up with dozens of enemy signatures. Not one ship, not 10 ships, but an entire swarm of Zyrith bots. They moved like a living cloud, shifting and pulsing. It was the biggest enemy force the humans had seen so far. Admiral Soren's voice came through the comms, calm but strong. All ships, battle formation Delta 3, human vessels spread out into perfect lines. Shields charged, cannons glowing. The fleet looked like a shining wall of steel facing a storm. This was humanity's moment to stand. The Zyrith did not wait. They attacked first, launching beams of burning light from their strange organic weapons. Explosions flashed across the battlefield, shaking ships and rattling hulls. But the human fleet held its ground. Humans had trained for war for generations, and no alien swarm would break them easily. Fire at will, Rayan ordered. Human lasers cut through the darkness, striking enemy ships in bright bursts. Some Zyrith ships twisted and cracked apart like eggs. Others split in half, releasing dark energy into space. But still more enemies came forward. A tide with no fear, no hesitation, no mercy. Rayan noticed something strange. The Zyrith ships seemed to protect one area of the battlefield more than others. A cluster of smaller Solari civilian ships floated behind them, damaged and powerless. Rayon's eyes widened. They're using civilians as shields, he said, voice full of anger. He quickly switched comms. Blue Squadron, follow me. The Horizon and 3 fast fighters moved to the left flank. Rayan guided them through enemy fire with expert precision. His ship dodged twisting beams, spinning debris, and sharp spikes fired by the Zyrith vessels. They reached the civilian ships. Rayon opened a broadcast. This is the human fleet. We are here to help. A weak Solari voice replied. We did not want to betray you. Please, save us. Rayan didn't hesitate. Bring them in, he ordered. Human fighters formed a protective circle around the civilians. Zyrith ships moved in to stop them. but Rayan's cannons fired again and again, destroying anything that came too close. The rescued Solari ships slowly moved to safety behind the human fleet. Admiral Soren's voice returned on comms, impressed. Good work, Rayan. That flank was the key. With civilians safe, humans finally focused their full firepower on the swarm. The battle grew louder, brighter, and more violent. Human destroyers launched missile storms. Carriers released drone waves. Cruisers fired heavy cannons that shook the battlefield with each shot. Bit by bit, the Xyrath swarm began to break. Their formation wavered. Their coordination collapsed. Then the sensors detected something terrifying. A massive Xyrath mothership approached from the darkness, bigger than any human vessel, shaped like a giant living fortress. Its core pulsed with dark energy powerful enough to destroy an entire colony. We can't let that thing fire, Rayan said. He looked at his crew with calm determination. Prepare for the final strike. The human fleet regrouped, weapons aimed at the mothership. The next battle would decide everything. Victory, or the end of human space. The Xyrath mothership moved through the darkness like a floating nightmare. Its surface pulsed with dark red veins. Its engines glowed like the eyes of a monster waking from sleep. Every human ship felt its presence, a pressure like a heavy hand pressing against their hulls. Captain Rayan stood on the bridge of the horizon, knowing this moment would decide the future of humanity. There was no retreat now, no second chance. Either the humans destroyed the mothership, or the mothership destroyed entire worlds. Admiral Soren's voice came across the comms, steady and calm. All ships, target the core. That is our only chance. The fleet tightened formation. Dozens of ships lining up like arrows ready to fly. Cannons charged, engines roared, and the stars themselves seemed to grow quiet. It felt like the galaxy was holding its breath. The mothership fired first. A giant beam of dark energy shot across space, tearing through asteroid fragments, shaking the shields of the front human cruisers. The blast pushed the fleet backward, metal groaning under pressure. But the humans did not break. They pushed forward again, because losing was not an option. Return fire, Rayan ordered. A storm of lasers, missiles, and railgun shells flew toward the giant vessel. Explosions danced across its surface, burning through the organic armor. But the mothership healed itself as it fought, sealing its wounds with living tissue. It was like fighting a monster that refused to die. Suddenly, the mothership opened its side panels, releasing hundreds of smaller parasite ships. They swarmed across the battlefield, attacking like a cloud of angry insects. Several human ships took heavy damage, shields flickering, engines failing. Rayan clenched his fists. If the mothership kept spawning enemies, the humans would be overwhelmed. He made a fast but dangerous choice. Prepare for boarding, he said. The crew stared at him in shock. Sir, you want to go inside that thing? The officer asked, voice trembling. Rayan nodded. If we disable the core from inside, the entire ship will fall. 3 assault shuttles launched from the horizon, flying low and fast through enemy fire. Rayan was on the lead shuttle, gripping his harness tightly as the pilot dodged burning debris and parasite ships. The mothership grew larger in front of them, filling the entire window. They found a cracked opening on the side, still smoking from earlier attacks. Take us in, Rayan said. Inside, the walls were alive. They pulsed like breathing skin, glowing with red veins, dripping dark fluid. The floor felt warm under their boots. It was like entering the body of a giant creature. The soldiers moved carefully, weapons ready. Strange sounds echoed around them, whispers and growls from deep within the ship. They reached the core chamber, a massive beating heart made of metal and flesh, suspended by black cables, pulsing with deadly energy. Plant the charges, Rayan ordered. Engineers rushed forward, placing explosive devices around the core, but before they could finish, a monstrous Xyrath guardian emerged from the shadows, half metal, half creature, tall as a tank, eyes glowing with rage. The battle was brutal. The creature swung its sharp limbs, tearing through armor, knocking soldiers against the walls. Rayan fired again and again, dodging each deadly strike. Finally, he managed to hit the creature's throat. The only weak spot, it screeched and fell. Shaking the whole chamber, the charges were armed, ticking down. Everyone fall back, Rayan shouted. The team ran through the living corridors as alarms screamed and the ship began to tear itself apart. The shuttles escaped just as a massive explosion ripped through the mothership. The blast spread like a bright wave, breaking the giant vessel into burning pieces. The swarm outside collapsed, their ships falling dead without the core's control. From the horizon, the human fleet watched as